Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. We get to update the Trade Tuesday series today. This one's gonna be a little bit different because the guy who traded me this really cool Schecter Synyster Gates guitar for that bass, he actually came to me, so we did some filming and we got to capture his story behind this guitar. So before we talk about this instrument, let's hear how he got it and his intentions with the bass.
Alright, so I walked into Guitar Center just planning to get some guitar strings. Well, I found my guitar strings and I looked at the back of the store at the used section and I found this guitar. And then I went outside and asked my mom if I could borrow the money to put it in layaway. And so eventually, after lots of arguing, she said yes. And about a month later, after lots of figuring out what to do for money, who to ask for work, I eventually was able to pay it off, and then a string broke on the same day. And of course it was my first Floyd Rose, so I had a little bit of issues with figuring out how to fix it. Eventually I figured it out, and I played it for a while and it was a lot of fun, but it just wasn't really my thing. It was a lot heavier than I expected. So the reason that I got this bass, well, I wanted to learn bass, and I saw this and I'm really into the vintage, Fendery looking bass vibe. I really like the bridge and pickup covers on this. It looks really well, and the tobacco sunburst finish makes it all come together. And of course it's from the 1970s, so it's pretty vintage and I like it. My plans for this is I'm gonna learn bass.
So that old Kent bass definitely went to a good home where it's going to be appreciated. I've got to tell you guys, I was this close to keeping that bass for myself because I was using it for some of my videos. I used it in my ukulele song. I used it just as some transitioning sound effects in a few episodes. And I just kind of fell in love with the thing. It had a cool vibe, so I understand why he wanted that bass. Because initially he had offered me an S101 Les Paul ripoff design, and that guitar didn't really do it for me. But then he offered this thing. It's like, okay, I've always wanted one of these things. This is a 2007 Schecter Diamond Series Synyster Custom. This is the signature guitar of the guy from Avenged Sevenfold. Code name Synyster Gates, real name Brian Hanner. But Avenged Sevenfold, it's a band that I've known about. I can't say I know every single one of their songs, but the very first song I ever heard of theirs was Beast and the Harlot, but they have many other really good songs. Synyster Gates, the lead guitarist, he's rated number 87 out of the top 100 guitarists in the world, so that tells you, he's pretty darn good. If I had to sum up Avenged Sevenfold and his playing, I would say it has some really nice heavy riffs that are really fat sounding and catchy, and the solo work is evil sounding but whiny. Now, I don't mean whiny in a negative context. The solos just have a rather high-pitched vibe to them, but it's such a distinctive sound, you always know when you're listening to an Avenged Sevenfold song just by the guitar work. Another thing that he likes to do with the other guitarist, I think his name's like Zachy Vengeance or something, is they'll harmonize their solos. I would suggest songs like Beast and the Harlot, Nightmare, and Bat Country. But I've known about these. It's not necessarily something I would ever buy, but it's definitely something I was interested in checking out. Specs of this thing. It is a really nice guitar. We have an ebony fretboard with custom inlays. This is the Avenged Sevenfold look right here. Then you have the guy's name, Syn for Synyster. These are giant frets. They are like super extra jumbos here. And usually I don't like that because I'll find that the pitch gets bent because I kind of have a heavier hand. But I didn't quite notice that on this one. And then it's paired with a mahogany body. I don't believe there's a maple top to this or anything, but it is interesting to note that there is like a little bit of a gray finish along the edge that kind of makes it look like binding. And then it has a 3-piece mahogany neck that has kind of a comfort carve for the neck joint here. So this thing is incredibly comfortable to play up and down the neck. I'm very impressed with this. When he had initially offered me this guitar, there's a bunch of different levels to these. There's the really cheap ones, and then there's like, $2,500 plus custom versions. This is more the intermediate version. Looking on Reverb, it seems like these will sell anywhere between about $450 to $700, and to buy a brand new one, they're about $1,000. And let me tell you, this guitar, it is definitely worth it. I mean, once again, coming from Les Pauls and everything, this thing is every bit as powerful as a custom. In fact, it weighs just about as much as one of those. This is a 9-pound, 14-ounce monster. There is a reason why he said it was heavy. It's because all this weight has to be in the body. That's the first thing I noticed about it, but it does play incredibly well. This is a 2007 iteration. It came with Seymour Duncan Invaders. If you buy a brand new one yet today, it'll come with his signature pickups now. And another cool feature they added on the newer ones is glow-in-the-dark side marker inlays, which is great if you're playing on a dark stage. You have an original Floyd Rose with a 3-way selector switch, a master volume, and a master tone. Now the master tone also doubles as a coil split option if you pull up on the pot, so you can get the single coil sounds as well as the humbuckers. Now the humbucker sound is good, it's really fat and juicy, but when you pull up on that and get your single coil sounds, that's almost what I prefer out of this guitar clean. Some issues to note is the locking nut mechanism is missing. You'd probably want to restring this up properly and get the Floyd Rose set up, but I was surprised. Even without the locking nut, I thought this thing was going to be out of tune all the time, but it kept tune very well, just like this. Of course, I wasn't using the Floyd Rose. So overall, I was very happy with my experience of this guitar. Usually anything after that $600 to $1,000 range, you're just paying for cosmetics. But I feel this guitar is really well built. It plays and sounds very good. And honestly, I think it's attractive for, a more metal styled guitar. So I think this is a complete package here. It's certainly a lot better than that BC Rich that I used to own when I needed something with a Floyd on it. So now that we know a little bit more about this guitar, let's go ahead and hear how it sounds. Now that we know how this instrument sounds, let's go ahead and review its condition. This guitar's definitely been played and it's got some wear to show for it. You can see you've got some string change scratches on the face of the headstock. You can see it says Schecter Diamond Series, and you've got a little skull man here with a top hat. But you can see the truss rod cover says Synyster Custom. Again, you are missing this locking nut mechanism. Along the sides here, you can see some scuffing towards the top and just some light nicks and dings around the edges. The ebony fretboard, I just cleaned and oiled it. It was definitely dirty when I got it. And I wiped the strings down with some steel wool, so they're not disgusting to play, but the strings definitely should be changed. But I'm not going to mess with the Floyd Rose because I don't know what I'm doing, so definitely have that planned in the future. But everything as far as the cleaning job goes, all should be in order there. The guitar does have some light nicks and dings. We'll run the light over here so you can see them all. Something about this finish, it's different from Gibson's. It's a lot more glossier, and if you know anything about black guitars, they really do attract fingerprints. I mean, I gave this thing a pretty darn good wipe down, and just by handling it, it gets pretty dirty. But besides a few impression marks on this one, it's actually in pretty decent shape. You've got your original Seymour Duncans in here. Again, you have master volume with coil tap on the tone and 3-way selector switch. While we're talking about electronics, sometimes this output jack can be a little bit fuzzy, so keep that in mind, but it was definitely still usable. Back of the headstock, this thing's very BC Rich-esque looking in my opinion. You've got your serial number of 0731504. According to the Schecter website for Diamond Series guitars, the first 2 digits tells you the year, so this is a 2007 model. You do have a volute, which is kind of a cool throwback feature that makes it feel higher end. And your neck is pretty clean, but you do have a few light impression marks. First one's kind of like right here. Nothing that you'll really feel while playing, but definitely should know about. I just love the way that this neck meets the body. Now, it's not actually a through neck construction, like through the whole guitar. If you take that pickup out, you can just see it's a fairly long tenon there. You've got large strap buttons. I haven't seen enough Schecters to tell you if those are original. I'm assuming they are. The back plate cover for the tremolo system is missing. And you've got some scratches and buckle worming here, as you can see when you get it in the light. We'll take a quick look around the edges here too. I mean, it's kind of hard to see, but I love that fake binding look on this. That looks sweet. So I'm not sure how they would make the higher end version of this better than this. I think the higher end ones get like a Sustainiac or something in the neck pickup. So maybe it just comes down to fancier electronics and different looks. Now we'll do a blacklight test. It does blacklight. You've got a little bit of a green glow. So this would show us if there were any breaks, cracks, or repairs to this instrument. There's none of that I can see. It's got a nice even glow here. We'll take a look here. So overall, I mean, this thing's in pretty good shape. It's definitely been played. It's got some scratches and light nicks and dings, but nothing too excessive. I like the way the inlays glow too. That's kind of interesting. So I hope you troglodytes enjoyed this installation of my Trade Tuesday series. If you're interested in trading me something for this Synyster Gates Schecter, you can check out the reverb listing or contact me on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. And until then, we will see you on the next episode. Take care.